The popular image of the filthy medieval peasant is a common first thought when thinking of medieval hygiene. Face covered in dirt, clothes tattered and rotting, and fecal mud slush everywhere. In some cases, you wouldn't be wrong. But hygiene varied greatly. Nobility and people of affluence excelled in some hygiene practices, such as bathing, while lacking lead in oral hygiene. Dairy and protein are great for making strong teeth. Peasants couldn't afford the newly introduced sugar, a luxury for the affluent. Just avoiding the stuff would do wonders for your teeth. Peasants also had access to sticks with bristles, like a toothbrush. They would also use rough linen to help scrub the teeth. The nobility had this too, but the sugar is too strong for such methods. Most would be toothless or have all black teeth, like Queen Elizabeth I. In these cases, they'd want to go see a barber surgeon to get their teeth pulled. Then they'd more than likely put scented cloth in their mouth to help not offend people with their rancid breath. Anesthesia wasn't a thing back then, so most would get drunk to help endure the pain of the surgery. Issues of sewage had remedies for thousands of years. In most major cities in Europe, the Romans left behind a sewage system, but that is in lesser places than most. However, the communal sponge of the Roman days were gone, and the communal outhouse was born. Instead of a room full of holes in a wooden plank, there was then one hole in a plank, modestly hidden behind four wooden walls and a roof. There were people who would come and empty these outhouses called rakers, but more on them in another video. Modern knowledge of germs, bacteria, and disease were far from the medievals. They believed in miasma, the idea that bad smells could lead to sickness, and the four humors theory, that the body is comprised of four humors or bodily fluids, such as blood, yellow bile, black bile, and phlegm. The imbalance of these humors would also lead to the sickness of that person. Hand washing before and after meals was a medieval custom. However, these would render useless against the bacteria and parasites within the food they consume. People back then believed parasites to come from within their own body. And some parasites, like the earworm and the toothworm, were entirely made up. No one knew that food goes bad the longer it sits out. Nor did they know about the cross-contamination theory. Also, eating and drinking behind other people will make you sick, something unknown to the medievals. It was as common as it is today for the medievals to want to look presentable to the public. At minimum, everyone agreed that washing your hands and face daily was a must. Also, changing your underwear daily was commonly practiced by everyone. However, most people could only afford one pair of clothes, which they layered up for warmth. While nobility bathed more frequently and thoroughly, these affluents needed to set themselves apart visually from the lower classes. So, in often cases, they'd have more colognes and perfumes, more clothes, and more maintained hair and nails. As mentioned before, miasma was the main theory of health. Good smells were important. They covered offensive smells, gave off an aura of great health, and helped fight off disease. The bubonic bird beak doctors would keep herbs and spices like lye or lavender in the tip of their beak to help ward off the Black Death. The nobility would add these same kinds of spices to funeral caskets to help with the preservation process. Now, some smells do ward off pests like fleas and lice, Basil, lavender, and mint were very useful during this period. They could even keep these pests out of their straw beds. This was important as well because fleas carried the infamous plague, and a bed will have residency for 8 hours straight on average. These straw beds would be laced and soaked in the natural pesticides. No one knew that drinking water was so easily exposable. Runoff, or groundwater breaches, would work their way from farms or rivers and contaminate the town's well. This would be an issue the medievals never solved. The Black Death was sweeping Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. Introduced to Italy from trading ships from China, the plague hit the known world hard. Venice began to hold traders in their ships for 40 days, 40 dieci, where we get the word quarantine. Fleas carried the disease, and the rats carried the fleas. The black buboes would grow under the arms, the neck, the groins, and the appendages of the afflicted would turn black. Death was almost certain. They also didn't know close contact with the sick would cause sickness, nor that animals could pass disease to humans. Lice were such a common issue that most combs just came with fine teeth to help comb the pests and the dirt out. These invisible killers ruled the medieval age with an iron fist. No other existence has altered human history like disease. Bad smells equals sickness. Good smells equal health. Miasma is a pretty straightforward concept. The four humors, on the other hand, are a bit complex. The theories of the time believed that all matter was comprised of air, water, earth, or fire. These corresponded to the four humors as well. For example, blood, the element of air, is hot and moist. This is the humor of regeneration, and is supported by herbs that are drying and cooling to help regulate blood, like the herb agrimony. Bloodletting was a way to drain the body back to a balanced state if a humor became out of balance with the rest. This was not effective. It was actually counterproductive on the sick. When you're ill, you need all your blood, and infection was obtained more easily when these procedures were done. It wouldn't be until the 1860s that humans learned of germ theory and abandoned miasma and the four humors. It may be easy for us, in hindsight, to see the lifestyle of the medievals as nasty. However, in time, I think we'll find that some of our modern practices aren't as sanitary as we might think. We might also find that the food we eat today is bad in different ways than the medievals. Another would be exposure to pollution in our air and food. Being in the present does give one hubris when examining history, but maybe today you'll find that we aren't too far different than the medievals. There are many things celebrities and the affluent do for hygiene and physique that normal people don't or can't afford. There are also so many products that promote health that the saturation of it all makes it hard to make a clear and good decision. I'm sure the medievals had a similar issue with the home remedies and rumors of the time. Do you think we are far more hygienic than the medievals, or are we nasty in our own similar way? Thanks for listening. Please leave a like and subscribe to hear more on history. Take care.